Imagine the importance of clear mapping and immediate feedback in something like an airplane cockpit, for example.
Oh yeah, the stakes are definitely higher in an airplane.
Talk about a high-stakes design challenge. But even with everyday gadgets, feedback is crucial. It's that satisfying feeling when you click a button and, without a doubt, that you've completed the task.
Right, it's like that little click gives you closure, like, yes, I did it.
Exactly. Or the sound of a door locking. Or the visual cue on a thermostat as you adjust the temperature. It's that feedback loop that closes the cycle and lets our brains rest easy.
It's like, okay, we're good here. We can move on with our lives now.
Exactly. And speaking of how our brains make sense of things, one of the most fascinating parts of Norman's book, at least for me, was his discussion of conceptual models.
Conceptual models.
Yeah, it's basically like our mental picture of how something works. And the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be technically accurate to be useful.
Oh, interesting. So it's like a mental shortcut. We simplify things in our minds to make them easier to understand.
Precisely. Like, think about how we picture files and folders on a computer.
Okay, files and folders. Got it.
We visualize these physical containers holding our digital stuff, but we know it's not actually like that, right? But it's a
Yeah.
useful model because it helps us interact with the system. It makes sense to our brains, even if
Yeah.
it's not technically accurate.
It's like a shared illusion that we all agree on.
Right.
As long as it works, right? But I have a feeling this is where things go wrong. What happens when our mental models don't quite match up with reality?
Oh boy, that's when we get those moments of, why on earth is this thing behaving this way?
Because our brains are trying to apply logic to something that's inherently illogical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Norman gives a perfect example of this with a refrigerator.
Oh, no, not another appliance.
I know, right? But this one's a classic. He's talking about those fridges that have separate controls for the freezer and the refrigerator compartments.
Okay, I've seen those. So what's the big deal?
Well, on the surface, it seems straightforward enough, right? You adjust one dial for the fridge and the other dial for the freezer.
Yeah, simple.
But what most people don't realize is that those compartments aren't actually independent. They're connected in a way that completely defies logic. You adjust one, and it affects the other in this weird, unpredictable way.
It's like those hidden connections that you would never know about unless you were like a refrigerator engineer or something.
Exactly. It's a design fail waiting to happen because it completely disregards the user's mental model. People expect those controls to work independently, and when they don't, well, let's just say it doesn't make for a very harmonious relationship with your appliance.
No kidding. You reach for the milk, and it's practically frozen solid. It's like the refrigerator's out to get you. But, it's a good point you bring up because this whole idea of conceptual models, it goes way beyond just physical objects.
Oh, absolutely. Think about how we interact with those big, complex systems like online banking or public transportation. We rely on mental models to navigate those digital and physical landscapes, too.
Right. We create these simplified pictures in our minds of how we think things should work. And when they don't, it throws us for a loop. And then we end up feeling lost and frustrated, like we're the ones who messed up somehow.
When in reality, it's often the design that's at fault. And the really insightful thing about Norman's book is that he doesn't just diagnose the problem of bad design, he offers solutions. He
Okay.
digs into how we can actually prevent these design disasters, especially when it comes to those all too common user errors.
Oh, yeah, those moments where we feel like we've morphed into some kind of tech challenge klutz.
Exactly. And his whole take on this is brilliant. He has this chapter called Human Error, No, Bad Design. That really got me thinking. It completely challenges the way we frame mistakes.
It's like he's saying, don't blame the user, blame the design.
Exactly. He argues that what we often label as human error is often the result of systems that don't take human psychology into account in the first place. It's like setting someone up to fail.
It's like, here, try to walk across this tightrope, but oh, by the way, we forgot to mention that it's covered in grease, and there's a windstorm happening right now. Good luck.
Right. It's a recipe for disaster.